the term active participation has a pretty long history. And the active participation works in two levels. If you read the great scholars leading up to Vatican II, they're very clear that the people should be doing the things that belong to them in the right, so the external participation.
And that became the battle cry of the liturgical reformers. Full, conscious, and active participation. And what does that mean? And what does that involve? And it started, it really did become the shorthand for everything that the liturgical movement had gathered up. The desire to understand and enter into these mysteries in a more profound way.
And I think the question that they were facing at the council is how to make the liturgy intelligible to people, how to allow people to enter in. And I think language became a real insurmountable obstacle.
Full, conscious, and active participation had a lot of demands. Probably the most significant of them was in the use of the vernacular.
One of the most striking changes implemented by the Second Vatican Council was the shift in the language of the liturgy, from Latin to the vernacular. This means that everyone around the world began to hear the Mass in the same language they spoke at home. In the United States, this meant that Catholics were introduced to a Mass in English. Hearing the prayers of the liturgy in their own language enhanced the faithful's ability to fully participate.
I found that it was much easier to concentrate. I wasn't distracted by babies crying and people having fits of coughing and so on, as I was when it was in Latin. And that kind of amazed me, that it felt so much mine that I didn't have to concentrate the way I did.
The Constitution on the Sacred Liturgy presented a lot of opportunities for lay people to enter into the mysteries of the Eucharist. Most noticeable are the external forms of participation, such as saying the responses, singing along with the choir and the cantor, and performing the appropriate gestures. The second stage of participation happens within each individual person. This involves experiencing, understanding, and being transformed. When we engage in an interior participation, we open ourselves to the effect of God's grace within the liturgical action. We begin to bring the liturgy into our lives, and at the same time, bring the concerns and joys of our lives to the altar.
But now we were being invited into the Mass, making these responses. All of that should have alerted people that we have a responsibility here at the Mass, joining in this sacrifice.
We can't think of participation only in the external sense. What some people say, bringing people into happy clappy. That it's more than that. It's actually bringing people to that deeper participation of the experience of the Paschal Mystery in their own lives.
To become very attentive to the ways since their last Eucharist that they have died and risen. What have been the sorrows, the pain, the uncertainties, the doubts? What have been the great joys of their life? And what is it, all of it, that they are bringing and placing on the altar, so that that too would be transformed just as really as the bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ.
There's something on the inside, something within, that transformation, that fire is burning. And the liturgy gives us permission to express that, to let it come out. And then the communal praise, the communal celebration, the communal silence, all of those help us understand the interaction between the individual response and the work that God is doing inside me and what's going on inside you, and then the action of the Holy Spirit together in the community.